Hi there, I'm Alan and I'm back in my electronics cave again to fix this, my pink triangle DaCapo D to A converter. Last time, in my last video, I mentioned that actually I could see that the power supply here was not giving the correct output voltages. So I've stripped this whole thing down and basically taken it back to its component parts. And what I've now done is I've connected up the power supply to a separate mains power supply. Now, if you remember in the previous video, I was getting just a few volts, 1 or 2 volts, when I was measuring the voltages on the output pins from this power supply. So, of course, the first thing I needed to check is the power supply itself actually faulty? So the first thing I was going to check is that actually on this pin here, I was only getting around 2 volts, minus 2 volts, whereas I should be getting, you can see here, I'm actually getting about minus 24 with no load connected to that. And the same is true of all of the other pins as well. I'm getting plus and minus 24 volt output from that power supply, which is a lot healthier than the 15 volts and 2 volts that I was getting. So that points to me that something here in the connection between that power supply and this circuit board here, something in the circuit board here is holding that power supply voltage down. And clearly that's going to be a problem that I need to sort out. Now, while I was taking this apart, I had a bit of a closer look at this printed circuit board here. And I can see a couple of things that worry me slightly. First of all, you can just about see around this pin here, there's certain amounts of scarring and what looks like black goo coming out of that particular pin. And actually, if I look a bit closer around the capacitors, particularly these ones, you can see more of it. And to me, that looks a little bit like capacitor electrolyte leaking out. So maybe that I might have uncovered the first cause of the problem here. Perhaps the next thing I need to do is to remove all of these here capacitors, replace them, and see what that does for my circuit. So that's my next job: crack out the soldering iron, turn the printed circuit board upside down, and replace those caps to see what I can do. In fact, to start with, I might not even need to replace the caps because it looks like there's an awful lot of them there and it's probably overkill. The power supply itself actually has 4 capacitors on it, so for my first test at least, I can just take them off and see what it does.